farmer.
25. Okay, committee, if I could bring it back to order. We're gonna start picking up a couple bills. I know people are here in anticipation, so this is the occupational therapy compact. So I'm glad you're all here, because I'm sure that's why you are
Big lobby.
wanting to see what we do with that bill. So Senator Lyons, as chair of Health and Welfare, can explain this compact, bill. And, I would say you can remember in the budget, there's 67,000, and that is to the, Secretary of State, for the, work associated with the creation of these compacts. We passed, one other compact, just about a week ago, so. Got lines, if you wanna just run through, 247 for us.
Sure, so what this does, I'm looking at Nolan's summary on the fiscal note, because I think it helps explain rather than, unless you'd like me to walk through section by section.
And carry on your committee's fine tradition of going section by section in my new detail.
So I think I will, skip that quickly and move on. But it does propose to adopt occupational therapy compact, which allows licensed occupational therapists and their assistants residing in a compact state to practice in a compact member state. So they would have a compact license in their home state, and then they would have a compact.
How many states belong to this compact?
There are few right now. I think there are 28.
Oh, that's quite a few.
And but then 4 more states, including New York, Massachusetts, and Washington DC, are considering application now. And Vermont would be adding itself into the process. The fiscal note includes fees, every even year fees of $180, and then that would change over time, I guess. No, it's even year fees, period. So every few years they pay a fee. But when we offer compact licenses, we do take a reduction in licensure paid to the state. So there is a revenue loss that you'll see.
That's to OPR though.
That's to OPR, and that's one of the reasons why we asked for the financial support in the budget for OPR. So according to OPR, the cost to modify their licensing systems is approximately $10,000 to accommodate the occupational therapy change. And there is revenue loss in 2026 of between $17,000 and $29,000. So that's it, but I think the person who brought the bill to our attention and had sponsored it in the House is an occupational therapist, and the occupational therapists generally in the state are very enthusiastic about having this.
So basically it's reciprocity on licensing.
Yes, it is.
Questions of the committee?
Why would we have one money for the Secretary of State? Because
We will,
usually these compacts don't require huge sums.
no, we won't, we don't have to supply money specifically for this, but with all the compacts that the Secretary of State is overseeing now, and with the compact licenses, bring in less money than a full licensure. And I think Milton would be happy to talk
Do you want
briefly about
Yeah.
the fiscal.
Sure, for the
implications.
record.
you want you to count so we can see?
Okay.
Yeah, it means that rather than requiring a license in every state, then we're accepting one, and therefore we're going up.
For the record, Noel Langwell, Joint Fiscal Office. What it is what you funded in the one times is each of these compacts require what's called a sunrise study, where OPR has to look at how they regulate them, what the fees are, et cetera, and it's about $10,000, $10,000 to $15,000 per study. And I have, so there's $67,000 in your one-time list that captures those fees for all the compacts and OPR things that you have passed.
But we think in the future that the beneficiaries would pay that fee to cover the cost of the program.
Sure,
Is that, or is it gonna be the taxpayers in state of Vermont paying that?
in theory, you know, OPR is funded by their fees and their licensures. But this is a upfront cost because we're not collecting fees from those professionals yet.
Okay. That helps, but in the future, the fees will cover the ongoing costs of these
Correct.
compacts.
Yes.
Okay.
Other-
That's helpful.
Other questions? We've passed a number of compacts. We have all kinds of compacts. So these obviously are regulatory, but we also have compacts for, related to child support, child welfare compacts, a whole host of like
Prison and parole.
prison, parole, yes. So Senator,
I would move to the open.
okay.
Second. Where's the clerk? When you're not again, does the clerk call the roll?
Why
Not a
is it so
motion.
late?
I know.
You would have thought it'd been here.
Shut up, for Ruth.
Wait a minute, we don't have, who seconded? Senator Person?
Yeah.
Oh, I sure,
It's number two?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I did. Lines,
Does he get
Yes.
the form?
Birchland,
Yes.
Sears,
Yes,
Star,
with it.
Star. Star.
He's not here.
Real questionable, yes.
Yes.
We don't have columns of that.
Okay, so
All right, so the reporter should be Senator Lyons.
I'd like to lodge a complaint about the clerk's behavior.
And I want to hear Sears'
Then
explanation.
you should go to the ethics committee.
Are you ready to take down my diction?
I'm saying.
Oh, this is such a pleasure. I know, people.
I voted yes despite the $67,000 appropriation, which I've been assured is not an ongoing, but rather a one-time expenditure to cover the costs of a number of compacts, not just this one. And then in the future, these compacts will be
Self-supporting.
self-supporting through fees. Would you like that written or?
In the YouTube record.
I don't think our
you
clerk
need
can
to,
short.
you need to write that and I'll tape it to the back.
And then
All right, you'll have a copy tomorrow.
And he'll file it. All right, now, committee, we're on to another hot
I want it
topic.
archived.
What is it?
And that is, if we do truth and reconciliation, and that is Tanya, do you suppose she could come in quickly? We could move this one out?
You want me to go after?
Oh, please. There's no there was an appropriation, but that's being carried in the budget, so in the House passed budget, and we have. At this point concurred, it's to fund,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't believe this.
and the, it says.
I need another.
The chapter is repealed on May 1st, 2027. So this is apparently,
It's a
um,
strange day
what
to
is,
repeal. I mean, usually it's thought it was February.
well, it was originally scheduled to be July 1st of 20.
Right.
Six.
Somehow,
It got extended a few
May.
months to May of the following year.
sure, Tanya looks.
Well, only if you
Must have been a
ask.
good reason. Well, I'll definitely ask.
Okay.
I'm in an asking mood.
We can count on you. All right, and then, what we have is, we're gonna do the language relative to the, beamers that's been requested by the teacher, by the treasurer. And then any other, language changes that, Grady might have available. And that's gonna be what we're doing, because it's Hannah's birthday and she has to get out in order to go out to dinner, and so.
Oh, happy birthday.
We want to, oh, should we say?
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
I hope we can add better than we just did.
And that concludes our,
Motion, okay?
They weren't even live.
our,
Oh, no.
we are.
We are live.
We are.
We are. Show you what I'm saying.
There will probably be an article about how you're doing time.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we're waiting for our next witness. I would like to put that on the record, that we are not, holding up.
We're just waiting.
And if Tanya can't come in, then I'm gonna go to you, Chris, to do the Beamers recommended change. Another exciting topic,
Davis.
Beamers, municipal employees. We talked.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
I thought you meant
What?
beavers, I thought you meant being so.
Oh, Beamers, oh.
Bemis for everyone.
The capital cabaret.
And after that, we are not gonna be doing any more on the budget. We've gone through our one times pretty much, and tomorrow we'll start going through, looking at what we have. Awaiting some additional information from other committees and making sure we're getting coordinated with that, and that'll be the discussion for tomorrow. And hopefully we've not let anything fall through the cracks. And
I had several sightings from people that saw her, but I did not actually find it.
so
They're
Chris, you
tracking
want to
her
go
down.
then? Okay. We'll go back to Beamer's.
Has the language been distributed? For the record, Chris Rook, Joint Fiscal. This committee might remember that a few years ago, in 23 big bill, the employee contributions for the Vermont Municipal Employee Retirement System, Beamers, were adjusted upward in a schedule of 4 years worth of increases. So just as a refresher on how Beamers is funded, the employees and employers of the members in the system fund Beamers. The state does not directly fund Beamers the way we do with the state employees and the teachers. Beamers can administratively change the employer contribution rates, but statute is required, or, legal changes are required by you all to change the employee rates. The reason why, had to do this, recently and being requested again to do it, this year is because the contribution rates currently in effect have been insufficient to fully fund the actuarially determined contributions for the last few years. The rates currently in place are only funding about 2/3 of the ADAC. So obviously that is not ideal for the system. It is not fully funding itself. So right now, under current law that you all passed 2 years ago, there has been a tradition where as rates have increased, the employee and employer have shared the burden of those increases 50-50. So the language you all passed 2 years ago increased all of the member rates by 0.25% a year over a 4-year schedule from FY23 through FY26. The language that is currently before you that the treasurer's office is requesting for inclusion would add 4 more years to the schedule of 0.25% increases for FY27 through FY30. So for all of the years up through FY30, there'd be 0.25 percentage point increases for the members and the employers. The Beamers board again could further tweak the employer rates if needed. Why is this coming to you all right now? As I mentioned, the rates that are currently in place have not been sufficient to fully fund the ADAC. Beamers is currently about 75% funded, but if the contribution rates aren't further adjusted, the impact of this underfunding is going to get worse. And the system could run the risk of hitting what's called a crossover event if the returns fall short of 4% this year and everything else is met, all else being equal. So by putting 4 more years of increased contribution rates into law, the risk of hitting a crossover event is greatly diminished. And I think the actuary said that we would have to have an investment performance of like -12% this year in order to trigger that. So a crossover event is not a good thing for a pension system. That is actuaries speak of, we can calculate a point where the system might run out of money. But regardless of how far in the future that could be, the real danger budgetarily to hitting the crossover event is that we would no longer be able to use the 7% rate of return and would have to use a lower blended discount rate. So by enacting these increases into law now, even though they wouldn't take effect for quite a few years into the future, the actuaries can put that into their model. And since this would be in place, like I said, the risk of hitting a crossover event is greatly diminished.
The one thing that I would point out is that this has all been negotiated and agreed upon with the treasurer's office and, the members, so they're represented. So, this is not something that doesn't come with, agreement on both parties, both the employers, municipalities, I gather, and the employees. And, that's why it took so, why we're getting it so late is simply because of the time it's taken to kind of work to come to agreement.
These are all,
Go ahead.
so these are all increases.
Correct.
And
And
that's the only, there isn't a change of who could be in which group. So I thought that was gonna be part of this, but then it's just these grids.
that might be the sheriff's.
That's what I was-
You're
That's
thinking
a
of the sheriff.
totally different issue.
And that's in gov ops right now.
Yeah, and that deals with the state employee retirement system, not VEMR's.
Right, okay.
These are the municipal.
Right,
And-
We can't combine.
they're not.
And municipal is sort of a misleading term that, I think the largest cohort of folks in VEMR's are actually employed by schools, but they're the non-teaching staff.
They are in there.
So this is, just language. We don't need to take action. It's not as though it's a bill. It's just putting the, new rates into the budget, which we've done, in the past. So
And perhaps more importantly, you would
the
have.
clerk does not have to
Yeah.
clerk. We just
No
have to,
clerking.
we'll just add that to our,
To the
and,
budget.
and Brady will,
It would go in the E section with all the narrative.
all right? So there, if there's no questions on that, that's another piece of language that needs to be taken care of. And then is Grady around?
Yes.
Was he coming?
Yeah, he was just waiting up next.
Yes.
Oh. So we've taken care of Beamers. The emergency fuel language that we were given is okay, and has that been added? I don't know.
And then we've been, or actually drafting, I mean, it's just a one line.
It's just one word.
I know, but my
Somebody
question
saw the
is,
draft.
has it been
I don't think so.
included? Okay. And,
Who is drafting this?
well, we had a draft that we looked at and raised the
Right.
questions about whether we were,
Well, yeah, no,
I don't know
who would we send it to? Grady?
grading, but who presented that language?
Well, we were,
Well,
you know,
Emergency
I
fuel.
got-
Or emailed it and I forwarded it to Amy.
Okay, so
Amy's fault.
So Amy will give it to Grady, I will. And then we can, put it into the package, make sure we've got it. So we're down to PCBs, the language about putting 3.5 million for raising, homes, as part of flood mitigation and the parameters around it will go into the 310 fund. So we're awaiting language on that. And then, the family support. I don't know if we need language to transfer that or not, but let's
I
see.
think we do. I think because it was language that did it,
Moved in the first
moved it
place.
in the first place. We need language to undo it.
The raising home language,
Uh-huh.
this may be a dumb question. I don't want to dumb names.
where could I help around?
Is that raising the home up higher so?
As opposed to RACI and GS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no
it's
Z.
lifting, like happens a lot in southern states where they,
Lifting.
How very,
We should call it elevated.
elevated.
Not,
yeah, because it raised it.
yeah.
Could be demolishing.
So,
Yeah.
and, so.
Yeah.
Is this the match?
No,
These would
there's
be
no
grants
match.
to do the elevation of the house.
These would be straight grants from the state to
No, to the fund, and then the fund would grant that, so that's why we need language about
But
that.
to the homeowners,
Yeah.
And
it's
they
true.
would send, give the grant to the homeowners, or the building, it could be an
And
apartment
these,
building.
so these
like-
are not FEMA eligible.
No,
Well, that's a question.
FEMA.
not maybe, but the question is timeliness
Yeah.
as well.
So, cause you have to do either one, you either have to go for the FEMA buyout and raise it, or you have to do the FEMA elevation. So you have to choose one, but if you go through the elevation and they say, no, you're not eligible after
Then you
3
can't go
years, you
back.
can't go back. And so people are without homes, and they're saying if they could have a grant program through the state, they would elevate the house instead of asking for a buyout.
And the towns, of course, want to preserve the grand list and keep the housing and we,
Cheaper way to build housing than for new construction.
This is not cheap, but.
Well, it's not cheap,
I don't mean, but I'm at, so if they are going through FEMA, are they eligible for this?
They could be, yeah. Yes, I mean, we won't.
FEMA wants to tear them down.
No.
They could also go through FEMA to get money to elevate them.
Because the problem with FEMA is, we just had a home in,
Time,
the house in Jefferson, applied, for, FEMA money to pick the house up. They picked the house up by.
Yeah.
4.5. And did that.
this was
They
something like Irene,
applied in 2011,
yeah.
and they got the money this last April.
that's why.
But we're not
So my question is this a loan, in that case, would this be a loan fund and we get the money back into the fund?
Does it,
Would we pay the money and then never see it come back to the state? How does
The
that?
idea is the latter, not the former, that,
If we've already done the elevation, does it disadvantage them in terms of getting FEMA funding? In other words,
I assume so, but I don't know that answer that question.
so when we pay for it and we do it, we're not gonna get that. back.
Right, that you don't have to wait this.
And in this particular
I
case,
thought you were saying that they might down the road get reimbursed or something.
I need to double check.
Okay.
in the particular case, the people that own the house borrowed the money, spent that, and then they went, more than a dozen, like a dozen years, and got, and had to carry that loan.
Yeah,
Oh, we got a whole bunch of shit.
Well, I think the goal is not put people in that financial bind.
Well, I understand, and I'm not opposed to that, but if there's a chance to get FEMA money and get reimbursed, I'd like.
yeah, I'll look at.
You have one of these?
Well,
And Jane has one?
the guy they had on the news last night from Derry. They said that FEMA would, take it out.
Right.
In the city and goes up $7.
Right. They'd rather preserve, yeah.
And you could go to the house.
Yeah.
Just sitting in the wrong place.
Okay. Great, thanks for coming over. So we have some more language here. This is able, and it should sound familiar because it's something we have in the budget adjustment. Oh, here comes Tanya.
I was informed, but I was wanted.
Yeah,
We're gonna give Grady the boot and give you the chair.
Sorry.
Oh, that makes you feel great. Great next to Jeff.
You were wanted for about 2 minutes.
So thank you, Senator. We're trying to get out some bills and
Yes.
the one we have is 649 and you're the reporter.
Yes.
It seems like the bill originally carried an appropriation and then that got removed in the House and is folded into the budget where it still is as, so all you have here is the other part of the bill without the appropriation. I gather there's a work group and there might be some costs and some that, but if you would just confirm that that's what the bill does, that our understanding of the money is correct.
That is my understanding, is that there was an appropriation in the bill as introduced, and that has been put in the budget in the House. We support that being put in the budget to help the commission do their work, but it is no longer in the bill as came out of our committee. I'm looking at the House version right now to try and make sure that that is correct. That is my understanding.
And did your committee amend the date then for the repeal?
We amended all the dates as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission asked us to, given that they've been down a commissioner, they've not been able to do their work, so they're behind. They asked us to push everything out, and we did it exactly as they asked us to.
I noticed that from May to May 1st.
Yeah. And there's a couple places in the bill where certain reporting dates are shifted out. But overall, we made those date changes, again, due to the fact that they don't have a commissioner and presently don't have a mechanism for appointing a new commissioner, which this bill is one of the pieces that this bill aims to fix, is to give them a mechanism to appoint a new commissioner.
Seems important.
Yes.
It's refreshing that we've created something that we intend to have this work and time limited and
Yeah.
bring to closure. So,
Yes.
questions of the reporter? Otherwise, it makes it easy since there's no money attached.
Unless there's something you wanna tell us about the
I mean, it is somewhat different than the House version. The House version was not working with our new open meeting law. So the biggest things that our changes do is it takes out some of the exceptions for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to our open meeting law, because the new open meeting law actually meets their requirements. And we firmly made them an advisory body, so they're able to meet remotely, which meant we did take away their rulemaking authority. But they did testify that they've never used it and don't expect to use it, and it was more important for them to have the remote meeting ability that came as being an advisory committee than to have rulemaking authority.
Other questions? Does anyone want to move the?
I'll move the.
All right, and second by Senator Ruth. Everybody wants to move your bill.
I love that.
We move fast in here.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Yes,
first one.
the vice chair and then the pro tem. Talk about August group. And the rest of it.
I did too.
Did you get that information?
I'm working on it.
Our clerk is doing his best.
If
Well,
you
I
need,
know, it was very busy.
if you need, so who's the clerk in your?
Senator Norris.
Well, yeah, but we use Ben to do.
Well, I'm the clerk in our morning meeting,
You're the clerk.
but we
in the
use
morning.
Ben, but in the afternoon, it's
Senator
Senator Norris.
Yes.
So we're calling the roll.
Senator Sears,
Yes, without explanation.
Senator Starr,
I'm still thinking yes.
so Jess Kitchell.
Yes. Okay.
What?
And who would
What
be
was
the?
the total?
Do you know how many there are around the table?
Seven.
Can't count that.
You got it.
There's only five.
So who is the reporter?
Gotta be personally.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have to do.
Senator Purcell will be our reporter. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so
Say hard.
here's that bill. And so-
This.
9 out of 10.
Now, Brady, you're back.
The minutes on the fifth. Yes.
On the fifth.
The minutes on the fifth.
Okay.
It was a love.
Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal Office. So as Senator Kitchell mentioned, the first page has the able language. This is slightly adjusted from the House as introduced Budget Adjustment Act. There were changes to sub F on page 2. This removed references to Medicaid for DEVA's recommendation. And both DEVA and the Treasurer's Office are.
Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
Okay. There was some concern originally, that's why you wanted to. So are we all right with this? This is to not have those accounts in Medicaid recovery. All right, number 3.
Number 3, this is similar to language the committee saw yesterday where this would be section E 306.1, but it's intended to replace the language there. It's just the recommendation is to remove the current E 306.1. So this section would be a new E 306.1. this relates to directing AHS and DIVA to conduct a technical analysis relating to health insurance markets.
And this is, I'll speak to this as your Medicaid, no, that's my section of the budget. And this is something that, I was, asked by, our former JFO person, Stephanie Barrett, and that this analysis was really helpful to them, as you can see. Feasibility of creating a public option and so forth.
And this is consistent with the working group report that we had with Josh Flynn a few years ago, and then also with thinking around the H 721.
So you can see,
It's good, it's good flow.
exploring afford. Now, then I sort of promoted a bit about the other studies. My concern is what we're asking the agency, in particular DIVA, to undertake. If we in fact move forward to implement the Medicare clip, when we're agreeing that we want them to implement the pilot project for the hospitals for the global payment, which is a major piece, do this study. It raises a question about how much you can ask one department to do. So, E306.2 is basically saying that the House had very, very extensive language about studies and so forth. And that is, these are sort of in priority, and that if they have the resources and the workload capacity, then these are the additional analyses that we would ask them to undertake.
So this is the RVR.
Yes.
And this would replace the House E306.2 section.
And they did not have the insurance market technical analysis. So this is something that we are adding here. And then if we go to page 5.
So this section is not numbered currently.
We
This would
can't
be-
because we have made no decision.
This would be pulling from another bill to make changes to Medicare savings programs. It would increase the qualified Medicare beneficiary program income threshold. It would eliminate the specified low income Medicare beneficiary program, and it would increase the qualified individual program income
This
threshold.
is just state placeholder now because we don't have,
We just passed 721 out, so it will help.
all right.
So this language is the same as what the language is in that bill.
And then we just, at some
Is it
point,
the same as what we passed out?
Yes.
okay. Another question is how much we can afford.
Exactly, it's option A.
6.
So this relates to the farm transition report. So it directs AHS and DIVA to provide a report to the House Committee on Human Services, Senate Committee on Health and Welfare, and the House and Senate Committees on Appropriations regarding the farm program, potential repeal of the program. If the changes made in the section preceding this necessitate so, or modifications to the farm program.
Okay, so it's recognizing the interplay between the implementation of MSPs and of the farmers.
Correct.
programs. 7, we just got this language. We've had no testimony and nor has the agency had a chance to respond to it. Did I see Damien come in?
Briefly, I could have sworn so, but this is language from.
I'm gonna hold this because this is something that we haven't had a chance to talk about.
On page 9, this would be a section amending the HIP statute. So this would include language, I believe the committee had requested.
No, we did not request we didn't want to, that's an expansion. We only wanted composed of at least one individual with a disability. The other one liberalized the population, and with the scarcity of housing, I is something that the House added in their bill, and we're not prepared to do that at this point. We want to make sure that the people with disability are added to the or. So it's actually, I guess, I'm sorry, this did get communicated to you this morning, but it's exiting homeless. Um, um, and I've forgotten what the rest is. I mean, they're
I think that's all that's what the existing, they added the 20 foot.
No, exiting homeless, actively working with an
Right.
immigrant or refugee resettlement, that's already
Right.
in. And then we're adding,
Or,
composed of one individual
right,
So
with a
this,
disability.
this is the House language. I have an alternate draft that I can pull up for the committee and send to Hannah for printing while we go through the rest of this document.
Well, why do we have the house language here then?
I worked with Ledge Council and they recommended this draft, so I improved it.
I'm having a hard time because I didn't ask Ledge Council. If I wanted this, not included, which was included in the House version, simply because we know that we've got a huge group of vulnerable population that have got to be housed, and it's a matter of setting priorities and not, opening it up as much. And so this is adding to what's already in the law, and we looked at the statute this morning, exiting homelessness. And then it has actively working with an immigrant refugee resettlement, and then we wanted to add composed of. So this hasn't anything to do with. I mean, this is a replacement of that language that the House has. So we only wanted to add or composed of one individual to the existing statute, which does not have that other phrase. And we can go over it and come back to it for approval, but this is the language that we wanted to make sure that, similar to what we were doing with the VHCB, and making reference to the, to individuals with a disability. Well, it could be, it doesn't matter what their age is, it's simply a matter of, how we want to make sure that this limited housing resource gets targeted. So, we can go to,
So you want to hold some,
well, yes, I just need to get the final language before we, close it out.
On page 10, this would adjust section E 106. So in sub B3, that dollar amount was initially 30 million. New sub 4 was created, pulling out 10 million of that for the populations and the people just mentioned.
And we did, that's 10 million, and we had sort of top two. So,
I can add
but
up to
my concern is, the way you're splitting it, it was to still keep the 30, the VHCB. Because the problem would be, depending on the sweep, if you only had 12 million, you can't give 10 to the, then you've got a problem here in terms of how you're funding it. So it's, we wanted to keep it at the 30, but out of that 30, 10 would be allocated, for number 4.
third would be.
Yeah, or a third. So if it came in less than 30, and obviously 30% of, a third of 30 is 10. So if it came in at 21, then you would split it proportionally, 14 and 7.
So is there a reason why we have two number 4s?
no, that's a typographical error.
Okay.
So I will adjust it to say not less than 1/3 this appropriation.
No, up to,
Or
because
up
we
to.
don't know how it might work.
Or do you want to say a third? Why not say just a third?
A third, you can do that too.
And then it'd be very clear what the amount is. If you say up to, then somebody has to make a decision.
Yeah, okay, well, do a third.
So it'd be like a sub of 3.
Yeah, so 3 would still say, 30, and then up to one, what did you say, 1/3? To, 1/3, to provide, because it's already going to be HCD, so it would be 1/3 to provide support and enhance.
That 10 million on the top of page 11 will go to page 30.
Yeah. On page 12, this would be adding to section C 109, further amending section B 1102 of Act 78. So in sub C, there is the $50 million appropriation to VHCD. And in sub 2, this would be adding that group of individuals to the $40 million that was appropriated in Act 78.
Um. I'm a little confused on that because the 40 is to provide and support and enhance capacity for the production. And now we're adding support for individuals. I mean, one is to create the units and build housing capacity and the addition here seems to be more of a social support. And I'm not sure, where did that come from?
That's different than the language, and I have on this sheet.
That is, this isn't the section we wanted it to go to. We wanted it to go to, we wanted it to go,
Add to be to, but also on this,
yeah,
allow that
we wanted to go out, that's the language that goes with the 30,000 or the
the
10.
third.
Yeah, the third.
Yeah.
I don't think it belongs here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to follow up with Senator Birchliff offline about this.
He asked for it?
I had an email regarding an amendment to B 1102, so I'll need clarification on what the intent of the committee is.
You could add it here, but if we were meaning to put it in, that's why we were just giving them that 10 million. So that where we have that language around the 10 million is down at the top of page 11,
Yes.
that's where you'd say that. That's for the,
It's to provide
one
support and
individual.
enhance capacity for the production. It's kind of repeating it there.
right,
So the committee had not intended to amend B 1102 of Act 78.
I can't speak for Senator personally, but I think he referenced the wrong section. I think it's the 30,000, the 30 million we're talking about.
yeah, I thought that language was in the bill. If you're saying that you thought it wanted to also change the statutory language.
So there's
Yeah.
the statutory change, the E 106 change, and then I was under the impression that there was a requested change to B 1102 of Act 78.
That it's
No.
by the citation, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Our conversations were around making sure that 30 million to the HCD, a portion was allocated specifically to serve the individuals who are eligible under the Medicaid funded home and community-based services. So it was a carve out of the 30, but we also wanted language to go in with the VHIP to amend the current statute so that they were a group that would go with the refugees exiting homelessness and people with disabilities.
I think that the advocates also, with that, before they knew about the possibility of $10 million, they just wanted language that gave the HCB the ability to fund it with their existing funding,
With their existing funding,
just as one of the options.
do
that
they,
could
do
fund.
they have money that,
That would be the B 1102.
Right, so they did ask for that as well, because they before, but
does, Gus have more money left here, this 40 million?
I need to talk to this.
Okay. Since this is already in
This is,
an
this is,
appropriation.
this. If they only have money, if they get the suite, they don't have money, they just wanted this language that would allow.
No,
the HCB
no,
to-
no, no, this is a current appropriation. and a bill that we've already passed. The sweep is in the budget that we haven't passed. And so we wanted to have the ARPA sweep of 30 million allocated, say 10.
Right.
For this group of, Vermonters with disabilities who are, eligible to receive the Medicaid. So this is actually taking this year's appropriation and adding the condition. So maybe we should do
Yeah, we
it,
didn't want it to add it to this year's.
but that's what this does.
Yeah, so that's,
So, and I'm sure somebody will tell us, but I think we've done what we wanted to. We've added it for the BHIP population, and we've added a carve out of to a third of whatever that sweep is, in September when we have the ARPA sweep that would go to this population.
And I believe Hannah printed out copies of the correct language for the DHIP statutory amendment.
No, so this is not it.
yeah, we don't want the
We
25
don't
year.
want this.
If there's
Oh,
any
yeah,
language
take
that
out
talks
the
about the 25 year.
This is not, I'm gonna just pull up, this is getting too confusing.
Okay.
And give you one that we've had a chance to look at first, this is just repeating what we don't want. Which was a change in another bill made by the House to existing statute. And we're not agreeing with the changes as they did it. So, that's why we're running into problems here.
I agree with nothing.
Well,
Agree to disagree.
so this is just exactly what's there. So more paper. Okay, what else? Is that it, Grady? for now?
That's it for now.
Okay, well, we'll have to work on some, just to make sure. And, on the, a nursing home and the contract, we need to hear from Damien, I guess, because this is contract law, but we also need to hear. This is an additional assignment to the agency in an area that, seems to not be, where they may not have the, legal expertise, so, I'm gonna suggest we hold that, we can have Damien come in. And we provided, the language to Rich Donahue, who's here for the agency, and since this seems to give them the lead responsibility, their comments relative to what the language they propose. Okay, so, I think we've closed out some, and page 5, we'll just await that other bill, and, that language will kind of be the framework for it. And then, we'll get more testimony on, the contract issue there. BHIP, I think we can change fairly quickly, but we'll try to give you a clean copy of what was asked for. And, then we'll give, the corrected copy on the ARPA sweep and the allocation of a third for housing for people with disabilities. And then we can finish that up. And the other language that we have, and I don't know if you want to discuss it now,
Sure.
Senator Ruth, and that's the PCB language.
Yeah. Is that printed somewhere? I sent it to you and,
I had it here, but maybe we don't, maybe Hannah doesn't have it. I don't know, so you handed it to me.
well, we emailed it to you. Why don't I, it's late today, why don't I,
We'll have copies made for tomorrow.
You sent it to me yesterday afternoon. I can print it right now. It's just
Okay,
that
great.
one short.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
it's quite
I
short.
I can print it.
You've got it, okay.
and just for the committee's, understanding, so this
I've
doesn't
got it right
change.
here.
Yep,
One. I
Sure.
can find it.
this doesn't change anything that we've appropriated. You remember we appropriated up to 16 million for Burlington for mediation, PCBs. They've been working with the agency. They've found about 10.8 million so far in reimbursement, but there were complaints from the district that they feel as though the agency is interpreting what was in the budget in such a way that they won't be able to get closer to the 16 million. And so they've asked for a sentence clarifying what they can be reimbursed for. So it would now say a grant to the Burlington School District to
What, we've got it. Thank you, Helen.
But again, stressing, it doesn't change what we appropriated, which is still up to 16 million or not to exceed 16 million. It's just, it makes it clear that the things that they've had to do, some of them like environmental assessments, they would be able to be reimbursed for.
And the way we wrote it in the bill didn't have that language.
Right.
What did, so it's the ancillary cost
Yeah.
that is allowing some more flexibility of ground coverage.
Yes. And I did speak with Julie Moore about it. I'll quote her, she said, "I don't necessarily oppose it. They don't think there's a need for it because they believe that Burlington will get closer to the 16 million, but the testimony that I had from, not testimony, but the communications I had from the district, they had been told at some point in the process that what we put in the budget last year ties their hands in terms of accepting more in the way of reimbursement. So what I said to the secretary was, I would move to include this in the budget and continue talking with her and the district to make sure that as this is moving forward into the conference committee, we can try to get clarity on why the agency and the district feel that, why they're seeing it in two different ways.
Are other schools, I mean, I'm getting emails
Yeah.
from other schools. And so where do we end it before it? Removal of PCB at Burlington High School, period, and then you're adding the phrase including.
Change.
um,
I am not, I don't have the original language.
The additions are following actual cost associated with the management. And then after Burlington High School, including ancillary costs related to environmental assessments, planning, and student relocation or accommodation.
That's current language and what we passed last year.
Yes, so this would be adding to Act 78C 112.
The question I had is, what are we adding? What did we have you just read what we actually passed last year?
No, so the additions would be following actual costs associated with the management. And then after Burlington High
There's a
School.
period after management support.
No, we had demolition and
Yes,
removal.
so
I bet the
it,
period ended after Burlington High School, period, and then the phrase
Yes.
including is what got added.
yes, and the phrase associated with the management also got added.
Okay.
Where is that?
But and the word associated with the management.
Well, it's all one
Oh,
sentence.
associated with.
No.
Second line at the end.
I see, so after
No,
cost associated
Actual
with.
cost, though, we had demolition and removal. So it's associated with management that got added,
We had actual cost demolition, they wanted to add.
and then,
management, so like admin. cost.
and then including
Yes.
ancillary.
Exactly.
So we're actually paying for things other than demolition and removal.
Right.
Including ancillary.
Stop me already, didn't know. Like
This,
90,
you know what it said last year?
90.
A grant to Burlington School District to reimburse the school district for the actual cost of demolition and removal of PCB contamination at Burlington High School, not to exceed 16 million.
Okay, so
No, this is the same money
No.
that we already.
it's the same money, but Brady,
Just
can
what
you
they
just
can
read
use.
us what we put in the bill last year with the 16 million?
A grant to the Burlington School District to reimburse the school district for the actual cost of demolition and removal of PCB contamination at Burlington High School, not to exceed 16 million.
Okay, so
So wasn't a management,
So we're adding management and then ancillary
Ancillary
costs of
Stuff,
assessment, planning, student relocation or accommodation.
Right.
and again, it doesn't say 16 million, it's not to exceed, and it's money that we already have.
My only concern is that we did not to exceed in the hopes that maybe we'd get 16 million and with that would free up money for other schools. There's a real concern with schools in my district about not having enough money. And that I don't know if this same language pertains to all schools or would it only pertain to President High School. So with other schools that have these costs possibly able to reimburse. So I have schools in my district that have associated costs. Can they also get this or?
Well, we haven't appropriated money to the other schools yet. But I mean, we've said all along that what we're doing for Burlington is setting a precedent of sorts. So that this, you know,
It's either in the school budget or it's paid for by the grant. So if you're administering something, and you have ancillary costs of moving students in temporary housing, somebody's gonna have to pay for it. If it
That's
can
their
come out of
concern,
the
they're worried
grant.
about who that other person.
But if it
It's
comes
all
out
under
of the
the ed
grant,
fund, which is everybody pays.
Well, they'll pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's the concern. So I just would want to make sure that when they get their money, that they are also allowed this same flexibility.
yes,
Yeah.
and I would be all in favor of that. The other thing I want to point out is 16 million seems like a lot until you consider that they had to knock the high school down and the costs are now over 200 million. So, you know, 16 million up to, not saying that that's not a significant help, but in terms of the reason why we're here, following the demolition of the high school, the standards
But,
dropped for other districts.
but getting back to the comment, because the 16 was only part of the total amount that we had reserved in the ed fund.
34.
So I think the question that Senator Purchase is raising is, then if we're going to say, with that PCB set aside, then all schools should be treated fairly with PCBs and they should be reimbursed for, which may make the money go even less far. If you're expanding, what are those eligible, costs to be paid for out of that reserve set aside?
Well, and I will add one more data point, which is that in the view of the district, they believe that the way the agency was interpreting it was, for instance, they were saying that they were only going to cover costs after there had been an agreement with the state about a remediation plan. But they had to do emergency things prior to that fell under our language. But they felt that the agency was setting an arbitrary moment and they wouldn't pay for things before that moment, not coming out of our legislation, but because of their own thinking about how the rule might best be applied. So this is an attempt to make sure that the agency is open and willing to reimburse up to the 16 million, which, and as I said, I'm happy to continue to follow this as this language moves. But there is the sense that the agency, and honestly, if you go back to our discussion last year, AOE and others were trying to hold districts to a very small amount that they could recover, and they opposed the 16 million. And so the worry is that this is a backdoor way of trying to hold the total down. But we put it in the budget up to 16 million because we recognize the urgency of Burlington's situation and the unique quality. No one else has had to vacate and destroy their school. So,
we can have more comments. I think what we're saying is if we allow these costs for reimbursement, we have to treat other districts in a comparable fashion.
is-
I think it's
yeah.
really a concern that's.
which is what we said last year, that, if we were putting a significant amount into Burlington, we had other districts that were in similar need, we would make it proportionate to their costs, our appropriations. So in that sense, I don't think we're doing anything different here. We're still committing to other districts who might be experiencing similar, emergencies.
Right, and there are some that have had to vacate parts of their buildings or one of their buildings, or not the whole building, but broken. And so, and they were renting trailers and have students
Yeah.
and all that, so.
I think they should be.
And right now, they're not being able to be reimbursed, so,
That we paid for the loans of the classroom.
well, through the education fund, but not through the PCP remediation fund.
Well, as long as they get mediated and reimbursed, to me, it wouldn't matter where it comes from.
So they don't want it to be on their education. They-
Yeah, that's the
Property
issue.
taxes.
Well, not that,
Yeah.
when you say the ed fund, you mean that they put it in their budget.
Yeah, not that.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the state.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe I could see why you want this language in like
But I,
appropriation, but maybe we also put it in
Generally,
where when we set aside the 32 million, if there's language in there, I can't remember what that language says.
but we need to make it consistent. I think that's
Yeah,
the issue. And let's take a look at it. But we'll put it in our package here of
Okay,
to be finalized, and you're gonna hear back from Jerry Moore from that.
well, she was gonna, try to get in touch with the district and we would have a
Okay.
joint meeting about it, but I let her know that I would move to put it into the budget to make sure that we're not,
All right, well, needless to say, within the, school community, there are concerns about.
Yeah.
You know, everyone being treated fairly, and, I agree. I mean, certainly moving out and into a department store seems to be fairly,
bit of a tussle.
a bit of a tussle, so, but we're sitting on a couple of schools and, Washington County, for example, and the superintendent is very, concerned about the cost associated, and at the time was done, well, isn't that preferential treatment? And so I think we're just trying to be sensitive to the, concerns that we've heard from other school districts.
Yeah.
All right, so it's now 4:15, and I think unless somebody else has language, we're just going to, call it a day. And tomorrow we'll just keep plugging away and maybe close out more, and, we can, all of this, voted by Friday. We have to, let me say, it's not, we want to, we have to.
Do it Friday and
Yes. Which means that we'll be reporting it out Tuesday, I guess, and go unnoticed, every Tuesday, so Wednesday and Thursday.
Busy week next week.
Yeah, should be busy. Yeah. Okay. All right,